And today we are going to sign the budget for our next fiscal year, 26-27. And there's a lot of great things we're going to say about that, which I will in a moment. But I first want to acknowledge some of the folks, that we have here. We have State Attorney Susie Lopez. And I can also say in the budget, we approved pay increases for assistant state attorneys. And so hopefully that'll help her and the people in her office that are working hard. President and CEO of Florida Aquarium, Roger German. We also approved money for the Florida Aquarium. So that'll come down. You guys will do that. And then, of course, our host today, President of Hillsborough College, Dr. Ken Atwater, approved a big chunk of money for them for the reimagined campus here, but also for Plant City. And, I know that they're kind of still talking about this whole stadium proposal, but I'll tell you, and I know Ken agrees, if that does come to fruition, no one's going to benefit more than Hillsborough College. It's going to be a huge, huge thing for this campus. It's really going to elevate it to the next level, and we're committed to making sure that the state, that we capitalize on those opportunities on behalf of Hillsborough College. So it's really, really exciting. And I know we have Rep. Valdez. I want to thank her for being here. Then we have Port Richey Mayor Hoover. Thank you for being here. So the budget that I'll sign today, after doing my line item vetoes, will represent the fourth straight year in Florida that we've actually reduced our state budget. Who else is doing that? And so the total amount is $117.6 billion. Just to put that in perspective, if you just kept spending constant from where we were 4 years ago and just based on inflation, that would have put us to $132.5 billion. So we are not only spending less in nominal terms, which we are, but really far less in terms of inflation adjusted. And then, oh, by the way, the last 4 years, we've had a few people move to Florida there, so the population's grown, and yet we've been able to do it. We're going to end the next fiscal year based on this budget with about $18 billion in reserves. And it's likely going to be higher than that because they always underestimate that. So when I became governor, I think the reserves were a little over $10 billion. We also have a fully funded rainy day fund, and that rainy day fund has more than tripled since I took office in 2019. We have a AAA credit rating from every major credit rating agency. Many states don't have that. Some of our peer states don't, and obviously the federal government doesn't have that. We have seen our population grow, and yet if you compare the total number of state government workers in 2019 when I became governor to the present, we have 1,300 fewer folks in state government. So the footprint of government is not growing in Florida. If anything, it's shrinking in Florida, and yet we're still able to do disaster response, do the things that I know a lot of people really expect us to do. The debt. You've heard me talk about this for those of you who followed what we've done. We did an accelerated debt repayment program, so we would put funding in the budget. The legislature put funding in the budget, I'd approve it. And then our guys at Bond Finance would go out, sometimes buy the bonds at a discount on the open market, retire them, or do other things to work that out early. And we had just hit this year, take all Florida's debt in history, 50% of the debt's been paid off just during my tenure as governor. Now with the additional money we have to continue that, by the end of next fiscal year, we'll have done over 52% of the state's total debt over 180 plus years as a state, taxpayer-supported debt, we will have retired. That not only means less debt, obviously that's a good thing, but a lot of times we saved on principal because you buy them on a discounted open market, and then you saved a lot on interest costs. So all the interest you would have been paying to let it mature, we've saved that. So we've saved probably close to $2 billion, but certainly over $1 billion between principal and interest savings in doing that, and we're excited about doing that. I'm not one to say that education is purely a function of funding, because we've seen some of the worst school districts in America have lavish amounts of money spent, $40,000, $50,000 per student in some of these, and the results are horrible. And part of that is because that money's just being chewed up by the system. So I don't want to suggest that, but the fact of the matter is, if you look at where we were in 2019, we were dedicating in Florida a little less than $22 billion for K-12 education. Now we're at $30 billion. So we have $8 billion more than what we were doing back then. And we've dedicated $7 billion specifically for teacher salaries. Our minimum salary has increased by about $10,000 over the last 5 years. And that's basically a way to recruit and retain folks. The budget that I'm signing has $1.56 billion just for teacher salaries, but $200 million of that, because we focused a lot on the average minimum going up, which we needed to do, but there's $200 billion that's only for people that have 10 years or more experience, and so some of those folks are going to see a bump, and we're happy to be able to deliver that, and we know that that's something that's really, really good. Lower budget, that's great, all this stuff, but it's like, are you doing the things that we want to do? Well, education's one, and that's with the money's going up for school districts, even though we still have universal school choice, which a lot of parents are doing. I think 500-some thousand families are utilizing those. Infrastructure, moving Florida forward. We saw the growth in Florida. And I've always said I'm not telling people to move here. We've got a lot. I mean, sometimes, it can be good. Sometimes it creates stress. There's just, it is what it is. It's a free country, though. So we saw that Florida was a place a lot of people had their eyes on, and we knew that we needed to make sure our infrastructure was where we were. So we have our big budget for transportation, and our state does a good job with this. Now I think this budget's almost $16 billion, which is more than it's ever been. But then we said we got all these other projects that are in this queue. Do we really want to wait till for a decade before we start alleviating traffic spaces? So we front-loaded some money from the surplus, plowed in. It ended up being $7-8 billion, and we're accelerating these projects. So there's projects that are underway that weren't even scheduled to start until next decade. Many of these are going to be delivered 5 years, 10 years, sometimes even 15 years out of schedule. And those in Central Florida, just look driving from here to Disney and I-4, just the temporary lane we did with moving Florida forward has made a big, big difference. And that's a very tough stretch of road. And then when the full project is done, which wasn't even going to be done for another decade, that's going to make a big, big difference. And we measure this, and we have the cameras. I say, show me before, show me after. I'm always telling FDOT, I want to make sure. And the result is the flow is just better. And the flow will get even better when we're finishing all of this. And so that's something that's really meaningful to a lot of people. We're doing 275 here. We obviously did the bridge here. We've done a lot in Tampa Bay. We got the 395 in Miami, the interchange. That's going to be amazing. We're going to do obviously more on I-4. We've got stuff in Sarasota, stuff in Naples, stuff in Northeast, the Panhandle on those. Champions Gate, which is really bad. Some of the places in Polk where you got to get people moving better. So all of that is being done, even with a very responsible budget fiscally. If you look at what we've done for law enforcement, we started this recruitment bonus check. So the state funds a bonus for all local and state law enforcement. So if you have somebody that wants to leave Chicago and come to Hillsborough Sheriff's Office, they're eligible for a $5,000 bonus. If you have a young person that graduates from school at HCC, at Hillsborough College, and wants to go into that, they are also eligible for that. So the new recruit bonus has been very good, and we've done over 10,000 officers that have gotten that. That's many, many millions of dollars that have been paid out. We're continuing to do that, and do that, I think, in a way that's really, really meaningful. We've also made real headway in fighting fentanyl and drug overdoses. Huge decline in Florida. There's been a decline nationwide, but ours is more pronounced, and part of that is the law enforcement angle, but also some of the treatment angles that we've done, like our core program. And so we're proud of that as well. So we did a lot of education, more than has ever been done on all that. Infrastructure, way more than has ever been done on that. And then environmental restoration, we've done more on that than anybody else by a country mile. We've now done more than $9 billion towards Everglades restoration and water quality improvements. We've tripled the water storage capacity in South Florida, which is a major part of our state. And that Everglades restoration is the largest environmental restoration in the history of the United States of America. Some people tell me it's the biggest restoration anywhere in the world. That may be true, but I know it's true for the United States. Huge deal. And if you look what was happening before we came in, there wasn't a lot of momentum on this. We came in, really put our money where our mouth is. We've dedicated huge resources to it, but then we've also now been able to tap in with the feds. They've delegated some of their projects to us. We're going to get those done quicker, and then they're doing the big reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee. So all told, this is going to be done where it was scheduled 2034 under the Biden administration. Now we're going to have it done 2029. And that's huge, and what that will then do, that will generate savings on the back end in the budget, because if you're building some of the like once you raise the Tamiami Trail, you don't got to keep raising it every year. Once you build the C-43 and C-44 reservoirs, you don't have to keep building those every year. So we are putting in place infrastructure that is restoring the water flow the way God and nature intended. And that's going to pay big dividends, but you're going to not have to spend the money we've spent because we've gotten the job done. We've also done more than $2 billion for Resilient Florida. We want to make sure that communities are able to weather storms, weather some of the flood risks, and that we're able to get on that. And I'll tell you, when that is done, it does make a difference. I mean, we've seen the hurricanes come through over the last 4 or 5 years. Some of the newer construction, some of the raised construction, it's not easy going through the storms, but you go and do. Some of the older ones have a little bit more difficulty. So that really has worked. So we have done things that I think a lot of other folks can't. We've lowered the budget 4 years in a row, paid down, it'll be 52% plus of our debt, grown our reserves, obviously reduced the size and scope of government, huge investments in education, infrastructure, law enforcement, and environment. And this is as millions of new people have come to the state. And of course, we have had the #1 economy rated the last 3 years by some of these publications. And I know you're going to continue to see that. I know the most recent numbers, I think, were from April or May, the last time the state numbers came out. We had almost 40,000 private sector jobs added just in Florida. That's more than any other state was adding. So we're happy to be able to do that. So this year's budget signing, and when I told the folks in the legislature, it's like, listen, I respect what you guys put in the budget. I don't always agree, but I know it's meaningful to a lot of people, and we want to accommodate. I was like, and I'm not trying to set a veto record. I already did set that record. And so it was like, I vetoed 3% of the budget 4 or 5 years ago, $3.3 billion in 1 year. And just to put that in perspective, I think the most that any governor had over the entire tenure was like $2.5 billion. We did 3.3 in 1 year. So I'm not like trying to set records, but I did want to make sure the budget reduced. And it didn't have to be reduced by, $5 billion, but it had to be lower. And so that was really what we did. And then within that, we wanted to accommodate a lot of the priorities that folks in the legislature had. And I think we did a pretty good job of doing that. So our reserves are going to be on paper about $18 billion, but I will say chances are they'll be higher than that because they typically underestimate what that's going to be. And that's, we've tried to give back a lot of these reserves. I mean, we've done all kinds of tax breaks. We've done moving Florida forward. We've done all these things. I think some of this money, what I had proposed initially for this ballot initiative was that we had a fund that we could then give grants to local governments as we do this property tax. You don't need to backfill everything because some of them are spending too much. But if you tell me like some city is going to lose 2 police officers, we'll send a grant for 400,000 or whatever. We send a grant, can do all that. So that money's there if they want to do that and they want to accommodate that. Those decisions will likely be made, subsequent to my tenure. But the reality is, the best thing to do to help taxpayers with that money is to use that to be able to generate a big property tax savings for people, and it can be done. You just got to be thoughtful about it. So our vetoes that we've done. So in my 8 years, we will have vetoed $10.6 billion out of the budget. And just to put that in perspective, if you look at all the governors since 1998 combined up until my tenure, all of those governors, that's two-term governors and a one-term, so that's 20 years. They did a total of $5.6 billion in line item vetoes combined amongst all of them. We did 10.6 just by our lonesome in these 8 years, and so we have been very rigorous on doing that, and I think the dividends have been paid by what we see today, where the debt has been cut in half, the reserves are good, the rainy day fund is flush, all these things that people talk about, but very few are able to actually accomplish. As I mentioned, the Budget Stabilization Fund, our rainy day fund, is at its maximum constitutionally that we're allowed to put into it, a little bit more than $5 billion. When I became governor, it was about $1.4 billion, and so we've more than tripled the rainy day fund during this period of time, and that's something that we're happy about. This budget will yield additional tax savings. Now, to me, I focused this kind of last year, mostly focus on saying people need property tax, which is local. Our state is very low on tax. We do the sales tax, of course, but a lot of tourists and non-residents pay that. And so that helps relieve burdens off Florida residents. We've eliminated taxes on commercial rent, which hurt small businesses. And then we've excluded more items from sales tax. So no baby items are taxed now. Back to school tax is permanent every year. I think it's starting a little earlier this year, July 20th. Disaster supplies, round the clock. You're buying the qualifying disaster supplies tax-free. We want you to prepare for storms. All of these things are really important. And so we've done nearly $10 billion just in state tax relief over the last 8 years. We've saved, and the savings will compound because something like the business rent tax, they got to pay that every year. That's gone now. So that's a huge boon for small businesses, and we're really excited about that. We also did things like the Freedom Summer. We did tax breaks for skilled workers so that they could get tools, all these different things. And then this year, the past fiscal year was a big hit. We did 2A and outdoor sales tax holiday, and that's renewed. September 1st through December 31st, you can get tax-free on firearms, ammunitions, accoutrements, fishing, hunting, all these different camping supplies. A really, really good opportunity for people to be able to do that. We're also providing a sales tax refund of up to $500 per eligible residential property on sales tax paid on the purchase of impact-resistant windows and doors from July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2029. So you're going to do that, take an opportunity to get that savings. We talked about some of the K-12 stuff. We have increased the budget pretty significantly. We also have done well with early learning, $1.65 billion for that. I mentioned the $1.56 billion for teacher salary and the $201 million for the tenured, well, we don't have tenure, but for the experienced 10-plus year teachers. We also did $290 million for safe schools and $180 million for mental health allocations. We also have $15.4 million for civics, our civics initiative, and that includes, and this is something we've been doing since 2019. We've had to build a lot of this up over the course of the years. But one of the things that we did was say, you can say, oh, we want civics, but then you got to have instructors that really are passionate and understand it. the way higher education has evolved in many of these places, they don't put an emphasis on kind of the building blocks of Western civilization, which I think is a mistake. But the reality is we've got to account for that. So we started this Civic Seal of Excellence program for teachers. So you go through this course, it's a 50-hour course, and you get a $3,000 bonus for doing it, as well as additional credentials. And it's civics teachers, anyone can do it. History, literature, you could do it. We've been oversubscribed on this. I mean, we've had thousands and thousands of teachers go through this program. It's got a very, very high rate of approval by folks, and we're going to continue to do it. But here we are, America 250. We're going to celebrate that this weekend. You started to hear a lot of talk. We've been talking about it for over a year now. I mean, we've done all these different things, including we've got, actually, you know what? I think we've got a Lincoln statue, because we're doing the founders, so we have counties named after founding fathers. So I said, okay, in every county we're going to commission a statue. So we have Franklin in Franklin County, Hamilton in Hamilton County, Madison. You know, a lot of these states have taken these down. I get them at a discount on the market and just put them up. Why not? You know, it's good. And so we've got all these Monroe, all these people, but then we've also done great Americans who've exemplified the founding creed. And so we did Frederick Douglass and St. Augustine, and we're going to do Lincoln. I don't know where we're going to do that. We're debating, but we're going to put a Lincoln. And you know what I think we're going to do too is I talked to some of my guys. I think we can do one right here at the Steinbrenner. And we're working on maybe like a Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig thing, because, you know, these guys were down here in the 20s and in the 30s. Like, all these greats came through, not just Florida, but they came through the Tampa Bay area. And so it's really a rich baseball tradition and baseball history, which is why I think it's fitting if they're able to get this race project across the finish line. But we're going to do that. And we've done a lot of different ones, and we're happy about that. But we've been talking about this for a long time. And the whole civics initiative we've done over many, many years, we just did the speech and debate. The winner of our speech and debate got a $50,000 scholarship. Now in Florida, $50,000 goes far, because we have the lowest in-state tuition in the nation. It hasn't gone up since I've been governor, so it's like $6,300. You could go to USF, you go to UF, you go to all these places. So if you get $50,000, that pays your tuition and then some. If you're Florida, well, you'll have to be a Florida resident to participate in this. So all those things I think are really, really good. I'm glad the legislature has supported that over the years. We also in this budget has full funding for Florida's Bright Futures program, $705.2 million, and that's meaningful when we're holding the line on tuition. The money goes far, and that could be 100%, 75%, depending on where you are. $1.8 billion in state funding for Florida colleges, $3.8 billion for state university system, $158.6 million for Florida's 4 HBCU colleges and universities. And we started that initiative when I was governor, probably about 6 or 7 years ago. We now have invested over $12 billion in workforce education since 2019. When I came in, I said, look, colleges are great, universities are great, but some of these kids are graduating with these degrees that are not really getting them anywhere. We got to focus on tangible skills and give people those pathways. And we wanted to be number one by 2030, and we hit number one this year. So we're number one in workforce education, but we've put our money where our mouth is. I mean, these apprenticeships have exploded. The programs we have at state colleges, the high schools being able to do a certificate in HVAC or electric and all these different things, really, really good. And you're going to continue to see more and more demand for that, particularly, as the state, more than likely will continue to grow. So those are really, really significant, and we're going to continue to do it. I mentioned transportation. We've done more than has ever been done on that. I did mention the Everglades and the water quality, and huge support for that, and really historic. And I think that people will look back and say, that was kind of struggling. There was a possibility that just could have continued to slide, and we said, no, we owe it. We have a responsibility to leave the state better to God than we found it. we're going to dig in, we're going to put the resources there, and we're going to demand accountability, and that's what's happened. So I'm really, really excited about that. But also what we've done in all these different places in Florida. Indian River Lagoon. You look what we've done to protect the St. Lucie estuaries, the Caloosahatchee. You look at what we've done with Florida Springs. We've had historic funding to support Florida Springs, and we have the best springs anywhere in the United States of America, and we're very, very proud of that. So all in, this has been an unprecedented run for supporting Florida's environment. Of course, we talked about law enforcement. We're funding that bonus program again. We also have a $19.8 million allotment for a 4% pay increase for state law enforcement officers, and we've worked hard to increase that over the years since I've been governor. I think it's the right thing to do, but I also think you need to do that if you want to keep good people. If you can make more in the sheriff's department, then people are going to go to the sheriff's department. I mean, that's just part of the way. So I'm glad that the legislature has done that. They didn't do as much as we had wanted over the years, but they did do some, and we appreciate that for sure. Emergency response. Hopefully, we're not going to be able to use emergency response this hurricane season. Last year was very quiet, and I think a lot of people really appreciated that. And we'll see what happens this year. We'll be ready if it does, but we're going to continue doing what we're doing to be able to respond in a really big way to natural disasters. These are not easy things when you have hurricanes. And I know there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in this area and other areas of Florida. But I'll tell you, when you have a real strong, robust response, the prep, the response, get people on their feet, make sure the power gets back on, all those things, there's a lot of places none of that would get done. And you end up just mired in a rut. And I think in Florida, we've stepped up and done what I think people expect the state government to do, is to kind of quarterback these efforts and get all the players involved. And we've created a great culture of emergency response in the state of Florida, and we're going to continue to do that. And again, hopefully, they built a new emergency operations center, and it needed it, but I was like, I came in, and our EM director at the time was Jared Moskowitz. He's like, we're the hurricane place. We got to respond, and this thing is, the private companies had better EOCs than we did. Counties had better EOCs, so they did it. And I'm like, all right, I don't really like spending money, so they spent money. And then the next year in the budget, I see another like 60, so it's like 80 million. Then I see 60 million for the EOC, and I'm like, ugh. So in that budget year, we were able to put in a lot of money because things got so expensive so quickly. So we did it. But that is completed now. I have not seen it, and I'm kind of trying to figure out, do I go tour it? And if I tour it, does that make it more likely we're going to have a hurricane or less likely we're going to have a hurricane? And I got to figure out. I kind of feel like the more effort we put to prepare, maybe we won't have one. But then I feel like if I show up there, then that means, I don't know. But the reality is we're going to be ready for go on all of that. And I know that a lot of people appreciate having folks that are there to be able to do this. Finally, some stuff that we were able to do particularly with the First Lady's leadership, is we have $30 million for the Cancer Connect Collaborative Research Incubator, and that's the current focus on that is pediatric cancer research, and part of what you're doing there is putting dollars to opportunities that may not necessarily yield a lot of financial gain. And so, you have the private sector, they're doing this because they want to be able to monetize that and to make money, and that's just the way it goes. There's nothing wrong with that, but not every promising lead may necessarily lead to that. So we're filling those gaps on that. $70 million for the Florida Cancer Innovation Fund. That's a $10 million increase, and that helps researchers develop and advance new treatments using new technologies. And it has $127.5 million for the Casey DeSantis Cancer Research Program, which supports clinical trials, efforts to improve patient care, and other forms of cancer research. And so, all in all, I think this is a budget that's doing a lot for the people of Florida. We did have to pare it back some. I think the total amount we vetoed was probably about 1.6 billion. But some of that was they wanted to put money in one bucket or another. It wasn't necessarily spending, so we don't really count that in terms of reducing the budget. We count the spending vetoes where the money would have been spent, and so that was like 800 and some million for that. Total vetoes about 1.6 billion. But the reality is, you have a state that has reduced its budget 4 years in a row. You have a state that's paid down. It will now have been over 52% of its total taxpayer-supported outstanding debt. You have a state that has the lowest, the smallest government footprint in terms of per capita of any state in the United States. You have a maxed out rainy day fund that's more than tripled from where we were 7.5 years ago, and on it goes. And so that's a good thing. We should be thankful that we're run in a successful way and really set up for whatever happens in the future. And look, I'm the governor. I'm not running an investment firm or a hedge fund, but you look and just see different things that can happen. Markets can go up and down. I think if you look at one of the things that I just think about, you have big increase in equities, largely driven by technology, although some of those stocks have lost some altitude. But the market, has generally gone up since the bear market in 22 pretty significantly. It's been a really good run. But the issue with the overall economy is consumer spending. The bottom 75% who aren't as much in equities, maybe they have 401k, but they're not beyond that. Their spending has really tapered off. And so the spending, consumer spending, is kind of that top 25%. Those are people that are more likely reflective of when the stock market goes up. And so they've kind of kept the economy afloat. If you do have a sharp market correction, that 25, you're going to see changes in spending habits there. And then that's going to cause some problems overall. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it could happen. And if it does, do you want a state that instead of having to have a 5-alarm fire, you just say, okay, this happened, market corrected, we have this, okay, we're short 750 here, okay, take it from rainy day, put it in. Oh, you need $1 billion here? Okay, take it and put it there. Done. You don't have to worry about it. And that's, I think, something that you want to do. So I can say this will be my my 8th budget that we've done. And if you go back to 2019 until now, no question that we're leaving it better than we found it. No question that we're stronger. No question that we're fiscally responsible. No question that we've met all the challenges that have come before us. So anyone that wants to come up, I know some of you guys, if you want to come up, I'm gonna sign it. Do we have any young kids here? I don't see you. Okay, you want to come up? Come on up. Young kids, come on. Come on, guys. All right, you guys, Susie, you guys want to come? Mr. President, come on. No, get behind me. All right. Okay. So I have the tax. All right. Today is the 28th. Is that right? 29th. So this is the tax package that we're signing. And then this is the budget. Okay, who wants one? You want one? Anyone else? Yeah. I'll take one. Okay. All right. So I want you to hold that up for us. Just hold it right there. We're gonna smile. So say cheese.
Oh wow. Really set.
All right. Good work, guys. Good deal. So you didn't, that's not a permanent, so he's got, although he looks mature enough, some of these young kids, we do this over the years, and they have the permanent Sharpies, and we get some gentle complaints from the parents that became a mess. So then we made sure we had the non-permanent markers that we gave. Okay, do we have any questions back there? Yes.
Do you plan to work for the Razor Patrick Zalewski in any way, in any capacity after leaving office?
I didn't hear what you said.
Do you plan to work for the Razor organization or Patrick Zalewski in any capacity after leaving office?
There is actually an organization now formally opposed to it, a campaign. Are you going to be involved in any formal political committee or get involved in something like that you did with Amendment Spring 4 a couple years ago?
I don't think so. And the reason is what the legislature did wasn't my proposal. And so, we had a proposal, and I felt an obligation, if that were on the ballot, to lead the effort. We would have done a political committee. We would have made sure that we were able to do that and explain and just educate people on it. And I think that would have been, I wouldn't have liked doing it, but I would have felt an obligation. What they did, I think, is good for taxpayers. I'm going to vote for it. I think it's positive in terms of getting affordability and relief from, we see persistent high prices across the economy and have for a number of years. I would say that that's something that is, that's probably the best thing that could help people right now is to enact some significant property tax relief. But ours was part of a larger vision, and I think it would have really been something that would have been historic. This could lead to that, but you're going to have to do other things in the future. And I kind of felt like this was the one shot we had to really put us on this pathway. We have all this money here that we could have been able to help, soothe this transition. I would have been totally willing to do that. And that's just kind of my thinking. If someone asked me to do something, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but in terms of leading the effort, in terms of me saying, here we go, we're going to do this, we're going to do all that, I'm not going to do it. I think it'll likely pass. Because if you read it, I think most people are going to be supportive of it. But I don't know that. I know ours would have passed because we did a lot of research on exactly how to structure it and how to do that. And so we'll just see what happens. But, one thing I would say, and I don't know the details of this political committee, but I think it's totally inappropriate if local governments are spending a bunch of money saying that they need more money. Why would you do that? Basically putting that in. I don't agree with that. And so, it's fine. We're going to just kind of keep on keeping on. I don't think you're going to see me leading that on this particular proposal, because while I support it, I do think it's not, all that I was hoping to see.
Governor, is the state doing enough to help out with the raise, and do you think that it will actually happen, the stadium over here?
Well, I don't know, doing enough. Dr. Atwater came to me, said that this was a thing that the team was looking at. He said, I think it'll be good for HCC. And so I was like, all right, then I'm for it. And then they negotiated, and we transferred the land to HCC. They've been able to now have this collaborative relationship that's going to give them a lot of opportunities for their students over the years. So we've done a lot. Just that thing with HCC and working with, that's huge. We're also committed to doing infrastructure, not only to help with the campus, but also helping around ingress and egress. And we've done that with all the projects. We did that with the Miami Soccer Stadium down there for Inter Miami, which is a good project. And we've done it in other times as well. So we're going to do that. But in terms of kind of the stadium and all these businesses that are going to end up being there, that's more something for the team and for the locals to have that discussion about. But I will tell you, I know Dr. Atwater agrees. This would be really good for HCC. It would really be a positive. So from the state's perspective, like I've said from the beginning, I don't want to lose a Major League Baseball team. For a state, this area is very hot, Tampa Bay. What would it say if you lost a team to Raleigh-Durham or Nashville or even to Orlando? Obviously, if it was within Florida, that's a little bit different. As governor, I want to have the team be in Central Florida, but I think Tampa Bay just is very rich baseball tradition, very rich baseball history. And I think it's been really a good part of the culture here. So this is kind of a natural fit. And I just think it would be good. So how do you do that? And you got to figure out a way to get that done. But I think what we've done is, we've never done money to build stadium at the state level. I've always said that's just not, first of all, there's a lot of people that say like, you shouldn't do that, period. But then it's like, in a state as big as Florida, if I do the Miami soccer stadium, then I got to do Raymond. I mean, you would never be able to not do it. So we just said that's not our cup of tea. But the surrounding infrastructure, we're going to be supportive of, and then how the local communities do that. I think that's something that they need to do. But here, it would definitely be good for the state college system, no question. It would be good for the state overall in the sense that you would have a legitimate economic base here that would produce a lot of economic activity. And unfortunately, this little area right here does not really produce as much. People said, oh, you guys transferred the land to HCC. Like, what would that cost be? I mean, I don't know what the use of this land is other than this project. I don't think people would want to build office parks here. I don't think people would want to build residential. It's really, you have Raymond James, and then if you had the Rays and everything else, it could come to life, and I think it could boom. I don't know that there's a lot of other uses, to be quite frank, with it. So that whole thing with working with HCC and doing that's been a really, really big deal. And I don't know the details. I know they're kind of negotiating with the city and everything like that, and the county, and maybe they'll come up with something. But I just look around the country, different deals here or there, and this is just kind of the way business goes. I mean, so that's just something that's a reality. But I do think it would be good for the culture here. And you've got a good ball club here. That's the thing. It just needs kind of the right formula to really be able to go to the next level. So we've been very helpful. I think we've done probably more than anyone thought was even possible in terms of the support that we've had to get it done. But I know that there's people in Orlando that want it, and I know that they have opportunities to do stuff in a variety of ways there. And then North Carolina, Tennessee, some of them want a baseball team. And I know some of them are trying to focus on expansion, but you would rather have an existing franchise that has a good history of producing talent than be an expansion team if you had the choice. And I don't know the economics of it. I mean, maybe it'd be more expensive to do an existing team. I don't know how that would work, but that would just be the reality of the situation. And so we'll see. But we're coming up now on 4th of July, America 250. Then the following week, we're at the All-Star break. I mean, the Rays are going to have a number of people, I think, in that game. And we're going to have, I think, a really good second half of the season here. So this is an exciting thing to see the Rays. They're going to have a chance to be in the playoffs. I mean, obviously, you got to play the whole season. They got a lot of great young players. I think this would be exciting here for the community. And I think it'd be more than just kind of economics. Yeah, the economics would be benefit. I mean, you want to talk about taxes and property tax. These businesses will be paying that, right? I mean, they're going to pay property tax. You're going to generate sales tax. To me, that's not the reason why I would want to do stuff. It's like, for me, I want to know what's best for people. If government benefits tangentially, but I wouldn't do it just for government. But when people are always talking about this, how do you make sure that you have good resources? Just look what we've done. We've cut taxes. We haven't raised taxes. You cut taxes, but our economic base has gotten better, and it spits off revenue. The economic base here grows. It's going to spit off revenue, and that's going to be good for folks, going forward. So we'll, we're going to continue to work with Hillsborough College. And hopefully, I think this has probably got to come to a head pretty soon, one way or another. And then, we'll have a discussion if somehow it doesn't happen. But I know we're both very excited about what's going to happen on this campus with a potential facility here and everything surrounding it. And I know a lot of the students in the future are going to be excited about it.
Governor, I know this is the same market, obviously, as Polk County. I just want to ask, why are you moving to Polk County?
I haven't confirmed or denied anything. I mean, people put out stuff, and that's fine. But I'm certainly not gonna be commenting with you guys on that.
Bill, are you going to sign or veto the sovereign immunity bill?
we're going to veto the sovereign immunity bill. I mean, basically, in Florida, if you sue the local government, there's a cap in how much you can recover because that's coming from the taxpayer. It's not some private business. If you go above the cap, there's a process in Florida where you can file a claims bill and then get that. I signed a number of claims bills this year where then you can do. So if it's capped but you were harmed more, you do the claims bill and you get paid. And that people have gotten millions of dollars with that. But that system disincentivizes frivolous lawsuits. When you raise the cap, you are going to generate more unmeritorious lawsuits. I have no doubt that would happen. So we'll veto that, and also just with the local government property tax argument, why would I want to impose more burdens on them? You have the cap. If it's above the cap, then you have an ability to seek a claim with the state of Florida, and those are, that's not litigation. That's a different forum where that is done. Yes.
Can you walk us through some of the line item vetoes, some of the things that stood out to you that you said, no way should taxpayers fund this?
I think that there's a variety of things. There's some things that. For example, they wanted to send to pay for the security for Miami-Dade Catholic schools. Look, it's like they're getting a lot of money in scholarship, right? And so that was like $15 million. I'm thinking like, okay, well, why there? And then does that create an entitlement going forward? With all this stuff, we've done a lot. No one has done better for Catholic schools than we have because we have universal school choice. And so I see that, we started with the security with the Jewish day schools because there were specific threats involving some of those schools, and we've done that. Now that's grown too, but what I don't want is for the state to somehow have an entitlement that we're going to have to fund all the time. There's other things that have gone to organizations that just don't share the vision of the state of Florida. So look, if you have a more politicized vision that's contrary to ours, that's fine. It's a free country, but we're not going to want to fund that if it's something that we don't think is good. So there's a variety of things. Some of the stuff wasn't necessarily bad. It's just I set a target to be underneath current year budget, so we had to get to that level. And some of the things were plausible, but you just have to make decisions. I think looking back, there have been things, we vetoed some really big items in the past. They wanted to do a big prison, which would have been a huge boondoggle, and so I vetoed it, and that was hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even more. And there's other different things that we vetoed over the years, but it's like, I look back and it's like, so if I hadn't done any vetoes, would we rather be in a situation where our reserves were depleted, where we didn't pay down the debt, where government had grown, where all this, I don't think anyone would do it. The things that we vetoed, a lot of those are just either inappropriate or maybe nice to have. But, nice to have is fine, but, I want to fund things that we have to have. That's why we've done education, infrastructure, environment, and all those different things. And so I'm trying to think, is there anything, a big ticket item that I didn't think? It's pretty standard, I think, how we did. Look, we ended up doing 800 and some million in individual line items, and then a total of 1.6 billion for some of the way they move the money around. But I think that's been pretty standard. I think most years I've done over $1 billion in line item vetoes, and I mentioned the one year we did 3.3 billion. So the record for one year had been 800 million. I think Bush did that. We did 3.3 billion. So I'm not trying to set a record here at this point. I've been there, done that. I have that T-shirt. I'm trying to just make sure that the budget comes in underneath, and so that we just made decisions accordingly. And not everything was vetoed is necessarily an inappropriate expenditure. It's just things you have to make decisions on. We did do the state attorney pay increases. I had to veto. One veto. So we asked for money for the corrections pay. And I've been very supportive of corrections pay for the entire time I've been governor, because we've had a big crisis, because it's a tough job. And if you can make more at Wawa, why would you want to be in a correction facility when you could be there, getting free subs and stuff, right? It's basic human nature. So we've had to do that, and we've put a lot of money into it. And I requested that this year. They put in, I think this was driven by the House, they put in in one of the conforming bills, they put in some of those pay increases. But they tied that to incurring new debt to build a new prison facility. Well, here I am talking about reducing debt. What am I going to say? Oh, we're reduced. Oh, and then we're adding debt and the same. I can't do that. So to me, that was like a DC swamp game. They tried to hold hostage the corrections pay in order to generate more debt on behalf of the state of Florida when we've made so much progress in reducing debt. So I vetoed the bill. I'm not playing those games. This is not DC, and we do things a little bit differently down here. But I think that was stuff that I would have supported as a standalone, no question. But it was a casualty of saying, okay, we're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. We're only going to pay corrections officers more if you agree to add hundreds of millions of dollars in additional debt. When we've already knocked off, so much of the debt there. Yeah, I'm not playing that game. So that accounts for, a decent chunk of the vetoes.
Governor, did you veto the $75 million the legislature signed for AIDS drugs?
No. Where are you with?
The Tampa Bay Times.
Of course, I could tell just by the tenor of your questions. I mean, you wonder why your circulation's low. Yep. Signed. And that's kind of ties when I came in, we did the Groveland 4 pardon. This is, there's historical precedent for, when you're righting wrongs to be able to do the claims. And, I know I talked with a lot of members of both the Senate leadership and the Black Caucus. They felt strongly about it. And so we were supportive. Okay, everybody. God bless you. Happy 4th of July.